Okay, how many minutes do we have left? Because I gotta go make a bathroom run.
When I started, and I'm still here,
Okay.
right? 25,
Oh,
26 years
15
later,
minutes.
haven't missed one yet.
Hurry up.
So I hope that someone out there sees this and begins their path, right? And this is additive, that's why we're all here.
I appreciate that. Yes, exactly what you're saying. There's so much more that all of us can be doing. The accountability piece is really very important, Gordon. Thank you for bringing that up. I just want to lay this out there to all our panelists. What can corporations do to really set themselves up for success in the near future and grabbing this new talent, this talent out there that we need to capture to help us build better, more relevant, engaging video games? What can corporations do?
So I was thinking about this in particular as Gordon was talking about the scholarships that he puts forward. So having organizations, companies like Take-Two have to be visible to young people, not just because they're buying, they're downloading the games off of off of Xbox or PlayStation, but because they're there in front from the beginning. And so Take-Two has been part of our challenge since the beginning, offering scholarships to our grand prize winners. And I can tell you that that's a motivator for kids to participate, not just because there's a scholarship at the end, but it's because Take-Two is part of it. Like, it made us cool, right? And I think it's that relationship at that young of an age that makes a connection for people. Is like, yeah, they want to hear what I have to say, right? Like, they're here because this program exists and because I'm interested in doing it. And I think that kind of relationship with these kids, whether they're mentoring and coming into a classroom, they're volunteering at a game jam, or judging games at the end of the competition, they're involved. And I think that it really has an impact in young kids' lives.
Yes, I love that.
I just want to add to what Suzanne's saying. I think that, and something that, we're talking about Take-Two, and thank you for having us, is making the success of Black people, of women, of queer people, of indigenous people, neurodiverse people, a business goal. Plain and simple. The same way that the consumption, right, of content, right, get some downloadable skins, buy some NBA 2K, right, that's a business goal around which the business is aligned. And I feel as though if the expertise of women, Black people, neurodiverse, other populations was a business goal, then that would be the change. It'd be that simple. Like, oh, our business is more successful if there is more of this, right? And that's about people being of value versus just being valuable, which are two different things. There's lots of exceptional people, right, who are of value in spite of their circumstances. They're valuable, right? There's a difference between saying you're of value and that's a business goal in itself. And I think that's the real change, because it used to be, just real talk, it used to be about exceptionalism, right? And be like, oh, you're able to thrive under this duress, right? Isn't that cool? Versus, right, you are actually who we are, so we are going to cultivate you.
Okay, I'm back.
That's who we are year round. That's what we look like, what we sound like, right? Who we are, right? And so as the lever moves more towards that, right? The same way, like, I have biases. I attended Harvard College, so I'm of value, right? There's value in that, right? I'm treated that way in some circles. If the same lens was put onto women, onto brown people, Black people, queer people, then there'd be no, as the kids say, no cap on the change that could take place.
Right. And that just speaks to being deliberate with our diversity, inclusion, equity practices. Corporations really have to take that accountability and, like you said, do what's right in that spectrum, in that conversation. looking at value from different sources and kind of recalibrating our minds to
Go
that.
back.
But like you guys have said, it takes time. It takes starting earlier in the
Well,
pipeline.
she looks like
I love
her
that you
head
just
is
call
shrunk.
that out. What other things can corporations do that are just different than what we've been doing in the
Okay.
past, perhaps? What would you recommend?
I would even add to what Gordon just said. The looking at this challenge as a business challenge is key. That's what between the inspiration of the social justice marches from last summer
Nah,
and really
stupid asses.
talking to our chair Danny Bilson, who said that, hey, if you were going to tackle this issue, this giant generational
stupid.
issue, as a business problem, what would you do? And that flipped the light switch on for me. Well, of course, like any business problem, what are my challenges? I've got gaps in my supply chain, if you will. So how do I fill those gaps in my supply chain? And really working your way backwards in a way where you're putting objectives, strategies, and tactics in place to achieve those goals from a business perspective. You're going to see outcome when it's not just, hey, here's a check and good luck with charity X. It's going to be more of, okay, here's a check. This is what we're hoping to see. Let's measure along the way and see if we're seeing progress on that. And it's the measurement of progress and adjusting in real time based on the data that you're getting back. That's where you're going to be. That's where you're going to see the gap start to close in a meaningful way, and be able to point out to other people in the industry, like, hey, this is what we can all do together. What if we scale this effort up and really had an impact on society as a whole? That mindset is really going to be what changes the game.
So I like to think about it as like a pie. You know, when we think about from like a corporate strategy, we always think about there's a piece of the pie and
Okay, I'm
everyone
gonna
gets a
stop
little
these
piece of the
guys.
pie. But I think the way we have to
It's
approach this is really the pie is
talking
not
about
a big
nothing
size.
video
I
game
think by
like,
including
so
more people, the
I'll
pie
catch you guys
gets
in the
bigger.
next one.
So it's not
Like,
a
comment,
big
subscribe.
size
Thank
that
you for
we're trying to
watching.
all get a piece
Love y'all.
of,
Take care.
but by